and McCann.
Greetings. Welcome to Wake the Dead. Today, we are very glad to have a good friend, an old friend. It's been a while since we've seen him, Johnny Cirucci. Giovanni, welcome.
Sean, I'm absolutely thrilled. It's been too long since the last time. Forgive me with my my warming neck roll. I'm a little under the weather, but there's no way that I'm going to miss this opportunity with you. I'm to crawl myself out of a COVID grave to come and talk to you, brother. I'm thrilled to do it.
Well, I'm glad they can't keep you down. So, we're delighted to have you here again, Johnny. And thank you. So today, actually, tell us, for those of the listeners that have not heard your previous appearances on our show, tell us where we can find you, please.
Sure. My first thought is, where the hell have you been? I mean, Sean and I have done some just crushing streams together. Sean on my show, me on Sean's show. You never heard? Okay. So I am a career military veteran who's had a miserable career, and the good Lord had a sense of humor by making me miserable and unfulfilled and making me leave the military, hating it, and looking deeper. And it caused me to look deeper, to become an investigative journalist. It was not my intent. In no way did I intend to do what I'm doing now. I became a born-again Christian in 1994, and I'm convinced that he was behind it, because when I got out of the military, as far as I'm concerned, I have a stellar resume. I had something that should have gotten me any great, useless, mediocre job of $80,000 a year to just push me back into the grind. And it pleased him to have me get nothing. I had nothing, and I was forced to swap roles with my beloved wife. She was enjoying herself. I put her through school, and she was doing music and things that she enjoyed but didn't pay the bills, and she was forced to switch careers. So now she's paying the bills, and I'm at home cleaning up the cat poop and washing the dishes and doing investigative journalism on the side. So
that's fantastic. Good for you, and God bless her for doing that.
It was painful. It was a painful transition, Sean. It was a painful transition. It was not easy to do. It was not something I would choose for myself, but it's the way it turned out. And because of that, I started digging. It started way back when I was still in the military, and looking into the supposed death of bin Laden, and what military sources were telling me and what my open sources were telling me, and how it was an absolute joke and a fraud. Brave Navy SEAL Team 6 was told the most valuable target in the so-called global war on terror, which, by the way, was started on October 7th, the Feast of the Assumption, the victory of the Rosary of the Holy Queen Mary. The same day, by the way, that the Hamas started their incursion in the Rape Fest on October 7th. Of 365 days a year. Now, why would they do that? Gee,
Yeah.
Well,
really.
That started me on a road of digging deep. It started me on a road.
Thank you for that. Like, tell us again what that date is and why it's significant. I'm sorry, but we'll get back to your road.
One of the holiest days in the Roman Catholic calendar. October 7th is one of the holiest days of the Roman Catholic calendar. It is also commemorates the victory of the Roman Catholic Knights over the Ottoman Turks at Lepanto. Huge. And it just so happens to be the same day that the secular separation of church and state United States government initiated the entire global war on terror. Was begun on October 7th, 2001 with Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. Just a coincidence, mind you. Just a coincidence.
And it's echoed again with this October 7th thing in Gaza.
Yeah, and nobody knows, and nobody's gonna hear that. Yeah, yes,
thank you. For that.
So this is why I say all roads still lead to Rome. All roads still lead to Rome. Why would Hamas do that? It makes no sense. Why would there be a Muslim terrorist group that contorts an acronym to mean ISIS when you have in Rome the iconography of Luciferian sex magic that is the phallus of Osiris across from the womb of Isis. In Rome, you have a phallus from stolen
right
from the Egyptian city of Heliopolis.
Cleopatra's needle, right?
Yes. Stolen from the Egyptian city of the sun, Heliopolis, across from St. Peter's Rotunda, the womb of Isis, the mirror image of the seat of power of the United States. And in the United States, it's massively pornographic. This huge 6,666 inch big phallus of Osiris across from the Capitol Rotunda. Why do we all have a Capitol? Because it's one of the 7 hills of Rome, right out of Revelation 17. Okay, so
right,
all the more reason why I'm doing this, and I'm finding this stuff on my own.
Back to your journey, right? Okay,
back to my journey. It's part of my journey. It's part of my journey. I'm looking up, and 20 years ago, it's Illuminati this, Illuminati that, and I'm like, okay, but I'm coming from the military. You're telling me Illuminati, deep state, globalist, that's nothing. How do I fight a war against Illuminati? How do I fight a war against the globalists? How do I fight a war against a deep state? You're doing that on purpose so that I don't have a clear and present danger for me to win against. So let me look deeper and get some names, places, and dates. And I come up with Johann Adam Weishaupt. Okay, that's interesting. His family was essentially, his family started off as Jewish, and then they all converted. What did they convert to? Roman Catholicism, and they converted hard. They converted so hard that, okay, you could say, oh, they were crypto Jews, Johnny. Come on. Well, here's when you give your child to the Jesuits, that is a gift of fealty. That is a gift of fealty. And that's what the Weishaupts did. Johann Adam Weishaupt was trained by the Jesuits starting at age 7, spent his entire life surrounded by Jesuits. I have 2 sources that say he became an ordained Jesuit. And this is the godfather of the Illuminati. And I was like, okay, Illuminati, and hardly anyone says Weishaupt, and no one says Jesuits. And this shocked me, and this put me on my journey. Go ahead.
Also, there in the structure of how the Illuminati is formulated is based on the structure of the Jesuit, right? The hierarchy,
military hierarchy, a military hierarchy, absolutely, with ultimate fealty to the grave. What do they call it? Ac cadaver. The full Latin, parende ac cadaver. I will not have a will of my own. Parende ac cadaver. Part of the, yeah, no, dude, seriously. Parende ac cadaver is part of the Latin oath. Part of the fourth vow, the blood oath of extreme unction, that you rise through the ranks of Jesuitism, and you swear that your very soul, you swear in your very soul that you will not have a will of your own. You will blindly obey. This is the essence of yes. Yeah. This is the essence of the spiritual disciplines of Loyola. This is why I say, the Marine Corps that I experienced is nothing more than an outreach of the Jesuits, a complete tearing down of self to rebuild into a virtual smart weapon. The ultimate smart weapon is a human being.
Boot camp experience.
Right. Oh my goodness. Yes. Destruction. I've lived through it. I lived through it twice. I don't want to tell you how it got, Johnny. I did both Paris Island and San Diego. I did them both. And I don't want to trust me. That's part of my journey.
And you still have control of your mind in this day today.
By the grace of Jesus Christ. By the grace of Jesus Christ. I don't lift up any of that. I have some pictures here. I've got my Marine Corps NCO saber in the back on top of my Army officer saber. I don't. There are guys. It's a great point. There are guys who need an identity, and they mistakenly embrace their career in something everyone says is elite. The Marine Corps is elite. The Navy SEALs are elite. Why? Because they're very controlled. They're very corrupted. They are the mindless praetorians of the machine. and the machine tells you to glorify them again and again. And by the grace of Jesus Christ, I look on that, just like Paul said, filthy rags. Filthy rags. There's nothing in my military career that I lift up. And granted, I didn't have my Jessica Lynch moment where I was surrounded by jihadis and I had an M4 in each hand and I was killing them like what ridiculous. What is it? Punisher Warzone, the best Punisher ever.
Right.
The Punisher Warzone where he's hanging upside by the chandelier, right? And he's spinning around. Okay, no, I did not have that moment.
I think I have that comic still in my collection.
Oh, and they hate it. And
anyway, go ahead.
What and now wait a minute. Now Frank Castle's real name is Francis Castiglione.
Oh.
Okay, did you know that? Frank Castle's real name is Francis Castiglione. He was written in the comic books as an Italian Roman Catholic whose family gave an homage to the co-founder of the Jesuits, Francis Xavier.
Wow.
Okay, supposedly, and I heard this in an X-Men movie. I don't know if this is true to the lore. Right. Professor Xavier's full name is Charles Francis Xavier. Again, an homage to the co-founder of the Jesuits. It's why I joke all the time, bringing up the Divine Metals clip from Deadpool. Francis.
My own dad's middle name is Francis. Like, it's just like all Roman Catholic. I mean, do you see the Kennedys?
Absolutely, the androgynous. They love to give their little boys that androgynous name. Wait, Francis, are you a boy or a girl? Francis I.S., Francis E.S. And the purpose is, it's not every single time, but most often the time and almost always in a Catholic family, the purpose is to give an homage to the co-founder of the Jesuits, Francis Xavier. So this has been my journey, and it started me with the writing of Illuminati and Mass way back in 2015 because I'm hitting stuff that I'd never seen before, and I personally believe that with my background as an ex-Roman Catholic, passionate Italian, I can't be ex-Italian, I have to be Italian no matter where I go, when I am, that this started me on this journey, and I didn't see anybody else hitting these topics. So I forged ahead, and I really feel like I'm one of the very few reliable people out there that are discussing this aspect, because anybody else that tries to get into the Jesuits and to Rome eventually hits a point where they're just scared out of it. I really believe that they're scared out because it's legit. It's absolutely legit. That's no matter where you go and what you do, all roads still lead back to Rome. Like I said, from the architecture, what's his name? Pierre Charles L'Enfant, the Freemasonic architect who was a Roman Catholic behind the architecture of Washington, D.C. It's not Washington, D.C. It used to be called Little Rome on the Potomac. So,
yeah,
the United States of America is just the vicious, bold military arm of the Catholic Church. This is what I've been saying for the past, good grief, it's been over 10 years, over a decade that I've been doing what I do, and very, very few other people are covering this. So but listen, and I've got plenty of material. I have notes in relation to the Talmud, and I want to say that what we're dealing with here is a dichotomy. We're in a time now where on the surface, you are served up repeatedly. You are served up with it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews.
Right.
But you're finding that there's substance to it. There are plenty of Jewish names and faces that are conducting skullduggery. There are plenty of them. The challenge for me to communicate to the audience is to assure them these are managers. These are middlemen. These are not decision makers. Epstein is the great example. He's simply a pimp. He's simply a pimp. Have you ever heard of the so-called Franklin
scandal?
Franklin scandal, the
cover up. Yeah.
Right. That's it. The Franklin cover up. Why do we call it the Franklin cover up? We call it because a former priest named John DeCamp turned it into wait a minute. There were boys that were trafficked to politicians. Where were they trafficked out of? Were they the Franklin Federal Credit Union and its president, Lawrence King? No.
Boys Town.
Listen what Deshaun said. They were trafficked out of the Roman Catholic orphanage of Boys Town.
Right.
Why do we not call it the Boys Town cover-up? Because the Catholic Church, blown cover is cover, grabs you by the hand, walks you up to the scandal, and then distracts you at the last moment. Oh, it's not Boys Town, it's the Franklin cover-up. The pimp was a black, I don't know what religion he was supposedly, a bankster, a black bankster, Lawrence King. Right. What did the Franklin Federal Credit Union have to do with trafficking? Nothing. It just so happened to be
it's like the money laundering
That's just
operation, exactly part of it. Right.
It's where he was laundering money. Where was he doing? He's also skimming. Oh, and by the way, he was arrested. What was he arrested for? Skimming off the top. He wasn't arrested for trafficking children.
Right. Or the actual abuse of individual children. Like, not just selling them, but actually abusing them like horrifically.
Absolutely. And so the FBI got wind of this, and they showed up. And the first thing they did was to bully the victims and shut them up. Wait, what? Yes. Right. Yes. The Federal Bureau of Inquisition showed up, and the very first thing they did was to beat down the victims to shut them up. Okay, Alicia Owen, they threw her in prison. I think, what did they say? They said that King got 10 years, and Alicia Owen got 25 years for perjury. Yeah. The girl that was trying to blow the whistle on the trafficking, and she got 25 years for perjury. Right. So this
just because she wouldn't admit to the shit that they wanted her to. It was like
exactly.
It was like medieval torture. Like
right, right. She wouldn't change her testimony. Like that great scene out of JFK. You heard 2 shots, not 5 shots. You heard. Wait a minute, I was there. What do you tell me? How many shots I heard? No, you heard. What? Whose side are you on? What are you doing? It's very well done. I got to hand it to Oliver Stone, who, by the way, was a Catholic school teacher in Vietnam. Okay. How about that?
Yeah, we got to have you on more often, like this. Yeah, because there's really, I'm on the same page with you. I mean, I grew up Roman Catholic. I ended up trying to fight it most of my life, and I recognize the evil and the hierarchical, the giving up of your own will, like what you said earlier. It's like
mind control.
That is like right. I mean, and what I've learned from others and stuff, like that's what Satanism is to not have a will of your own, to give it to someone else, and then they can use your body as a tool, like a slave. And the more we go, it's just, and the whole thing with the Jews, I mean, they're meant to be gross and in your face. And this Talmud stuff we're going to get into is really
demonic. It's
appalling.
Demonic. Demonic.
Yes,
but
right.
You're encouraged to stop short. You're encouraged to get angry.
Yeah.
Turn on your emotions, turn off your critical thinking, and stop short. And don't look over the wall. Don't look over the Wailing Wall, which is, by the way, at the Antonio fortress of Rome. So every Jew that cries and wails and speaks endless memorized prayer, are they doing it at a Roman fortress? They are not doing it at the remnants of the temple. How ironic is that? The Jews that pray incessantly, they are praying to a Roman fortress. That's it. The Antonio, boom, done. Drop the mic.
It's like a cult mockery right there.
Absolutely. Total mockery. Total mockery. So,
wow.
Listen, this is, let me go back to where we were starting.
This is great.
In relation to what you're told to see and what you're supposed to look back from. It starts with the role. And I personally believe that the role of power was the exact same as depicted. And I tell you my bias, tell the bias to the audience. I'm born again in Jesus Christ from January 16th, 1994 to now. So this is why I do what I do. Okay. This is my bias, my prejudice, for better or for worse. So coming at this from a Christian perspective, I consider the Bible as true and legit. And to me, the dichotomy of power at the crucifixion of Christ is the exact same as we have today. We have the Jewish leadership coming to the Romans with their yarmulkes in hand saying, we don't have the authority to murder this guy that's a problem for us. We want to maintain our power. We want to maintain our control. We want to maintain our structure. So please kill him for us, okay? Murder him for us. And Pontius Pilate said, I wash my hands. I find no fault in this man. And the Jews started the Jewish leadership. Now remember, they arrested Yeshua at night because the rank and file Jews loved him. The rank and file Jews adored him. It was Jewish leadership that had everything to lose. It was Jewish leadership that bribed Judas and the judges to have illegal trials and railroad Yeshua of Nazareth through these trials to be called guilty and to stand before Pilate. So I want to make that dichotomy clear.
Right. This also, those were the Pharisees, right? These are the learned elders of the Talmud.
Right. And so the Talmud is the replacement for the scriptures because the scriptures spoke too openly about the truth of God, the truth of the Messiah, the Mashiach, and also the truth of the Antichrist, which is the papacy. The greatest books of prophecy in the Bible, period, are Daniel and John, and they are the only two prophets that are given the special title of beloved. Well, that means that the Jews had to pull Daniel and not even recognize him as a prophet. Why? Because Daniel remarks, particularly in chapter 9, Daniel tells you exactly when and where to expect the Messiah. And this was followed to the letter so Daniel was part of the Jews that were captured. Daniel was part of the collapse of the southern kingdom of Judah. And I want to say, was it 540? Let's see, 530. Judah fell to Babylon year, 598 BC, roughly around there. And so Babylon came in and grabbed up a bunch of prisoners and brought them back and took the best boys and castrated them so that they wouldn't be any danger to the royal harem, and then brought them in and they became consigliaries, confidants, to the king. Okay,
they became powerful, and they were
very powerful,
1,000 years,
very powerful because of their wisdom, and that's the role that Daniel played. And it was Daniel that was given the prophecies by Gabriel as to when to expect the Messiah. Daniel chapter 9, verses 24, 25, 26, 27. From the going forth of the commandment to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, count this many days and years until his arrival. And Daniel left, and centuries later, his Magi replacements knew exactly when and where to expect. So they ride in to Bethlehem, and they're looking for, okay, let's go over to Herod. And they ask Herod, where's the king of the Jews? And Herod's like, wait, what? Yes, we were told by the prophecy to look for the king of the Jews. So, okay, go and find him, follow the star. You've got your scriptures. The scripture's giving you to by Daniel, and the star points them, and boom, there he is in Bethlehem. And they're told in a dream, don't go back to Herod because he's a bloodthirsty Edomite, and he's going to wipe out the children as a result of this. And they do that. And as a result, Herod slaughters all of the young boys from 2 years old to infant, like an absolute demon. But so if the Magi, that's what the Magi is all about. That's what the Magi is all about. It's not three of them, it was three gifts. Okay? It was all about the prophecies of Yeshua. It was there in the scriptures, and they knew exactly when and where to look. So if that's the case, then there definitely is something special about this Jesus of Nazareth guy. And this is why modern Judaism takes that and throws it out and accents the Talmud over the scriptures. Because if they examine the scriptures, it would force them to the truth. to the reality. So in that sense, they truly are the synagogue of Satan of Revelation 2:9 and Revelation 3:9 of those in denial. But these are the ones who know and willingly look away. They know what the truth of their scriptures are. The vast majority don't know because they don't look, they don't examine it any more than we do. What average anybody, what average Christian, what average Catholic knows what the Bible says? They don't know. But there are a small few in leadership that do know and bury it down. Those are the ones who are the synagogue of Satan. And they force other rank and file Jews to focus on the Talmud, because the Talmud is basically satanic. The Talmud is a distraction, it is evil. The Talmud has some of the most vicious things to say about Jesus Christ. Sanhedrin 106a says Jesus' mother was a descendant of princes, which is absolutely true. We can get into that in a minute. Descendant of princes and governors, but was a whore with carpenters. Wait, what? Shabbat 104b, footnote number 2 in the uncensored text says Miriam the hairdresser had sex with many men. Yabamoth 49b says Jesus was a bastard son of adultery. Sanhedrin 106a and b says Mary was a whore, and Jesus, they call him Balaam because he led Israel astray. Balaam was an evil man. Shabbat 104b says Jesus was a magician and a fool, and Mary was an adulteress. Gittin 57a, Onkelos, another allusion to a magician, or Balaam, another allusion to leading Jews astray. Jesus was raised from the dead, but now he's suffering in boiling excrement. What? Wait, what? Are you kidding me? Sanhedrin 43a, on the eve of the Passover, and just the mere fact that Yeshua of Nazareth was killed on the Passover. He was ruled sinless by the authority of the time, Pontius Pilate, in perfect synchronicity with the prophecies, was hanged and raised from the dead 3 days later. Sanhedrin 43a, on the eve of the Passover, Yeshua was hanged. Do you suppose he was one for whom the defense could be made? Was he not a mesith, an enticer? Part of Sanhedrin 43a claimed that Jesus was a puppet of the Romans, when in actuality the Jewish leadership were puppets of the Romans. Just flips it in total gaslighting. He was properly tried, and a crier went out before him, his execution for 40 days. That's an absolute bold lie. They did that illegally. They tried Jesus illegally overnight. A couple of ways that his trials were illegal. Proverbs 17:14, he who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous, both of them are like an abomination for the Lord. They were liars. They found people to give false testimony against Jesus. He should never have been arrested in the first place. Judas took a bribe from the judges. He should not have been arrested. There were no legal proceedings. The Jews, you were not supposed to have legal proceedings at night, even from the Talmud, the Mishnah. Let a capital offense be tried during the day, but suspended at night. What other sources do we have? Mendelssohn says criminal cases can be acted upon by the various courses during the day, but lesser Sanhedrin from the close of the morning service till noon, by the great Sanhedrin till evening. Maimonides, the great Jewish sage, the reason why the trial of a capital offense should not be held at night is because, as oral tradition says, the examination of such a charge is like a diagnosing of a wound. In either case, a more thorough and searching examination can only be made during daylight. No trial or capital offense should begin on a Friday, because then you have a chance of executing someone over the Sabbath. That was a big no-no. That actually came into play where the Jewish leadership begged Pontius Pilate to take him down from the cross because no one was supposed to be hanging on the Sabbath. And they actually disobeyed. The Roman soldier disobeyed the orders of Pilate. He was told to break the legs to cause suffocation of the men being tortured on the crosses. He disobeyed his orders. He could have been executed. And instead, he broke the legs of the two thieves on either side and stabbed Christ in the side. All of that is an amazing fulfillment of prophecy. The Passover lamb was not to have a single bone. It was to be broken. There are people out there like Jordan Maxwell that claim that the Bible was just thrown together by a bunch of guys in a room. These delicate threads from the New Testament to the Old Testament across thousands of pages and thousands of years show to me what a Jesuit piece of shit that Jordan, pardon my language, Jordan Maxwell was. Jordan Maxwell admits that his uncle was the Secretary of State for the Vatican. Okay. Russell Pine was his real name. Jordan Maxwell's real name. So on and on. The judges were not impartial. The trial should have taken more than one day. It was overnight. There was no cry for. Okay, so multiple reasons why the trial was illegal, and they railroaded Jesus, Yeshua, overnight. So,
right. So then this must. So that they got to put an excuse in the Talmud to tell their own people why.
Bold lie. A bold lie. Yes.
So like then their own people are like, oh, of course he deserved this.
If you have tunnel vision, it's the same. It is. What do we call it? We call it normalcy bias today. It's the same normalcy bias. It's the same cognitive dissonance today that the conservatards have in loving Donald Trump.
Right.
Oh, we did MAGA. He's going to save us all. Donald Trump's going to save us all. Oh, just focus on the Talmud, and we will be rest assured we won't be made uncomfortable with how Yeshua of Nazareth fulfilled the scriptures. We won't be made uncomfortable. Just focus with those narrow blinders on what the Talmud says, and we're safe. We don't have to make any radical changes. The conservatards of today, even the libertards, are like, oh, just vote in our Savior, our hero. Vote him in, vote him out. We're saved. Okay? You have no idea.
Trust the plan.
Right. Trust the plan. Trust the science. Trust it all. Okay, go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. You have this is by design. It's the same thing. It's a mirror image. And I will tell you that Jews that we can wake up are just as powerful as conservatives that we can wake up. Just as powers of libertarians that we can wake. The left. We can the left back a couple of 15, 20 years ago we had Occupy Wall Street and the Tea Party going back against. They had so much more in common than they had against each other. So much more in common of the corruption of big business and the corruption of big government. And they were purposefully put at odds with each other. You have no idea.
And look what it's turned into today. Now it's like a bunch, my neighbors have all the Trump signs that say Trump was right about everything. And they got a picture of him saluting an eagle with we the people behind him.
Ridiculous. He's Cyrus. He's King Cyrus. He's going to save us all. He's coming back. He's putting Hillary Clinton. He's putting Hillary Clinton in Guantanamo Bay. I've got the clip where he tells in his acceptance speech where people are said, lock her up. And he literally says, come on, that plays good before the election. Now it's no big deal.
He was so honest.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? He's telling them this is the same guy that goes out and plays golf with Bill Clinton and then turns around and takes a jet over to Epstein's Lolita Rape Island together with Billy Clinton. Okay. So please,
what is he? What religion is that mind adhering to? You know what I mean? I'm sure it's something just as Jesuitism
of say one thing and do another. Yeah. That's the whole essence. This is why Russia
and to not have a will of his own, to be a total tool for something else.
That guy's so compromised, Sean. That guy's so compromised. Right. Just look up.
The Rothschilds bailed him out with with his money. I forget when it was. I should be more specific with that. But go ahead. I'm sorry. The Rothschilds, he's beholden to them. They bailed him out with his business of. Anyway,
I don't doubt it. And the Rothschilds are the keepers of the Vatican treasury. I have a great
right. Exactly. And it's then it's that mask of it was the Jews, right? But you know what I mean, that whole thing again. Right.
And this is why, because centuries ago, I'll pull up my source on it. A great Jewish truth-seeking author named Emanuel Josephson. Must-have book, The Federal Reserve Conspiracy and the Rockefellers, Their Gold Corner. Emanuel Josephson, 1952. He goes into the detail of it, explaining how the Vatican was taking flack because good Catholics were enraged over the money the Vatican Bank was making with usury. They didn't think that was too cool, that they were making money off of usury. It should have been illegal to the Vatican, and so the Vatican needed
It's slavery,
puppets.
basically. Usury is slavery. So
Especially when it gets really extreme in the percentage, So the Vatican needed puppets to be their bankers. They needed targets. Enter the Jews. How supposedly did the Rothschild red shield? Who wears the red shield into battle? The Romans did the red shield into battle. How did Rothschild supposedly get put on the map? By insider training at the loss of Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte, who was he? Was he a Jew? No, he was not a Frenchman. He was an Italian Roman Catholic who I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with Frederick Tupper Saucy in his brilliant book, Rulers of Evil, that the Jesuits suppressed themselves. And when the Jesuits suppressed themselves in 1773, hugely Catholic nations like France they would never have done that on their own. They would never. They all they care about is their stability. The Catholic kings and queens had no morality, no ethics whatsoever. All they cared about was the stability of their power. And suddenly they're kicking out the most powerful agency in the world. No, they were told to do that. And where did the Jesuits, when they were kicked out of France, where did they go? They went to the island of Corsica. And who was in the island of Corsica in 1773? A young boy by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte. He was Italian. He wasn't French, which is how you get to use not born here. Right. Adolf Hitler was Austrian. He wasn't German.
Napoleon made a whole new world order, basically.
He absolutely did. And how did he do it? He had a Roman Catholic priest whispering in his ear, Joseph Sias. He had a Roman Catholic priest whispering in his ear the entire time. This is why.
And so, like the defeat of Napoleon, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
But, go.
The defeat of Napoleon is when Rothschild was able to make all their money because of this.
Because he had inside information. Who from Rome? Right. Because Rome knew.
Oh, I thought it was a pigeon. I thought there was a pigeon service.
Right. How did you know to jump the gun? How did you know before everyone else? Oh, they're just
a little bird told me, right? A little bird told me.
No, he was enabled by Rome so that the Rothschilds could step up and take the heat as the banksters. How is it that Google is born on the 27th? The birthday of Google was changed to the 27th of September, the birthday of the Jesuits. And anytime you ask him to people, when people, the Adam Greens of the world, the internet is owned, the media is owned by the Jews. How is it that everywhere you turn, you have people blaming Jews and huge names, the biggest names in alternative media like Stu Peters, blaming Jews?
Oh, it's that guy. Oh my God.
If you go on Twitter, it's all you see. Jews. Wait a minute. I thought so what is intuitive? What's intuitive is, if you have all the power, if you have all the control, what do? You make yourself invisible. And that's exactly what's been done for the black nobility and the Vatican and the Catholic Church. But what brought us down this path is the real power behind the scenes. Jews don't run. For every Freemasonic, for every Mormon, for every Jewish hospital or orphanage or school, there are thousands of Catholic hospitals, orphanages, or schools, and hundreds of Jesuit orphanages and hospitals and schools.
I like the Catholic ones. They take the afterbirth and they add it to their holy see. It's like some dark ritual shit.
Francisco Franco, an absolute puppet. Francis Franco, an absolute puppet of the Roman Catholic Church. After World War II, he was allowed to stay in office till his death. After World War II, the Catholic Church was helping him to traffic the children of his political enemies. That's not Jews. That's not Freemasons. That's not Mormons. The Catholic Church in the Catholic hospitals were stealing the babies of his political enemies and trafficking them. Who gets away? Who gets away with serial systemic rape of children? Not Jews, not Mormons, not Freemasons, not Illuminati. It's the Roman Catholic Church. I can pull it up and share it on the screen.
They can't even hide that. I mean,
you can't hide it.
Like everywhere.
You can't hide it. I can pull up the screen, the newspaper article I have from Buffalo, the Buffalo News, of how the chief of police told Buffalo officers, don't arrest accused pedophile priests. Anybody else, arrest them. But if there's a priest, how are you kidding me? How is the chief of police not running for his life in Buffalo? How is he not running for his life? Here's another example. So that's
well, I mean, he's part of the coven, like, you know what I mean? Like the cops work for them.
Oh,
we
my
know
goodness.
that shit. Like,
just
you know,
ask those poor kids out of Omaha, Nebraska. Ask those poor kids out of Omaha, Nebraska. The chief of police, the editor of the paper, they were all raping kids. They
this
were
is the
all
boys' town in Omaha, right?
Yes.
You're talking about, right?
Yes, they were all raping kids. They were all compromised, just like Donald Trump is compromised. Look up Donald Trump, Ivanka Trump, inappropriate. And you get a picture of her at like 13 years old sitting on his lap with a statue of two parrots screwing each other, and he's smiling, a Cheshire cat. Okay? That's just one example of many. Okay? The guy is heavily, heavily compromised. And that's blackmail. And that's how you get to become the most powerful guy in the world. No matter what he does, people say, "Oh, come on, he's a wild card. He's out there." Donald Trump relies on the teleprompter absolutely just as much as poor Barack Obama did. Everything Donald Trump does nothing off the teleprompter. Okay,
we know that's true because of his recent speech where he says that we're just going to own Gaza. We're just going to go and we're going to own it. And like, who told him? I mean, he's reading a prompter. You know?
Brilliant. If your desire is to froth people up over Jews, and let's say
that'll make them mad.
Right. Let's say you're the Vatican. You control. These are your puppets. Would you not have the Jesuit Pope Francis, instead of allowing a Jewish rabbi to kiss your ring, you kiss the Jewish rabbi, right? Oh, there it is. Done deal. If you secretly control Donald Trump, would you not have him say, we're moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem? Yeah, we're taking over Gaza. We're doing it ourselves.
When he was campaigning, he had the Jewish flag behind him while he was stumping.
By design. By design.
So like we associate him with Zionism, he's Zionism, same, you know what I mean? And that way it cements in our mind, oh, it's the Jews doing it, right? Even though he's Jesuit.
but who did he empower as the decision makers of his cabinet? Catholic, Jesuit trained, Catholic. Right. I have a list.
That too, right.
Where is it? Trump, filling the swamp. So this is a game. Filling the swamp with Catholics, I call it. He did it thoroughly through his first administration and is doing it again now. Let's see here. Filling papal puppets. Filling the swamp with Catholics. Where are we here?
And it's like, I mean, you have like so many documented, like, these are the people. Look, these are Jesuit trained people. Like, I mean, Fauci even, you know what I mean? Like,
oh my goodness,
you're telling everybody like, hey, look at this. This is their real allegiances. And everybody's like, yeah, I don't like to hear that. Right. It's the Jews. I just don't like that.
Because it's easier to turn off your brain and simply let your emotions rule. That's what the machine wants. That's exactly. But here's the problem. This is what should wake you up. Let's just say that you're finally empowered to do something. Let's just say you're finally empowered to make a difference. What's your plan? How are you going to make a difference? How are you going to free yourself from the tyranny? How are you going to free yourself from the slavery? You have an opportunity to go after who the enemy is. Who do you go after? I've got my buddy Jim Rizzoli, an Italian Roman Catholic from Massachusetts, who's not living there anymore, who says, yeah, Adolf Hitler, who, by the way, was totally controlled by the Jesuits. Yeah, he needed to round up those Jews because they were all communists. That's your solution, dude?
That's the epitome of that. If they can make us believe there is a reason to go kill our neighbors,
right.
That Satanism is winning. Like, the evil has won. If they can make you believe.
What's the phrase, Sean?
It was a good idea.
Sean, the phrase is rule of law. The phrase is rule of law. I absolutely agree that someone caught in espionage, that someone caught in committing a crime should be thoroughly adjudicated and fully punished. But what the machine wants is for you to lose your mind, lose your critical thinking, and mob rule. The machine wants mob rule, not rule of law, which is exactly what happened to Leo Frank in 1915. Mob rule. So we had a system that said Leo Frank, the Jew, is guilty of the rape and murder of little Mary Fagan, who almost certainly was Roman Catholic, but I can't find it. I think it was erased. Her mother's name was Frances Fagan. Okay. Come on now. Come on. There's got to be a Jesuit in her woodpile. I haven't found it, but the names alone tell me there's something.
Sounds Irish too. Like it's got to be Catholic.
Absolutely. Very Irish. And when you're talking Irish, you're talking 90% Catholic, at least 80%. Okay. So what did they do? They when the system said there's room for doubt whether or not, listen, supposedly the governor looked at Frank's case, which, by the way, he was the president of the Atlanta chapter of B'nai B'rith, and surprise, surprise, B'nai B'rith is Freemasonic. Well, wait a minute. Why is the premier promoter of Zionism, why are they tied to Freemasonry? If you're truly Jewish, you don't need help from a secret society. You love the idea based on the idea. You don't need a helping hand from a secret society. Why is there secret keepers out there pushing this?
Well, the Kabbalah, right? I mean, that's
that too. Thoroughly secret society. You're talking. Okay, so look, one of the biggest names in Kabbalah is Madonna Ciccone. Right? Okay. Italian Roman Catholic, but no. Who's
got a snake face now?
Right. That talk about a true Luciferian.
Oh wow.
Norm Macdonald is hilarious on Madonna.
Yeah, I love that.
Absolutely hilarious. Norm Macdonald's hilarious on Madonna. He did a bit where I'm going to ruin it, but Saturday Night Live, and he's saying, I want to congratulate on Madonna to the birth of her beautiful baby girl, 6 pounds and 7 ounces, only the 4th largest object to ever go through Madonna's birth canal. Something to that effect. It's fucking hilarious. He was awful. He was just brutal, and she deserved everything.
But I mean, look at what they took the Mother Mary's name, Madonna, right? And look at the whore. Like she's, like a virgin, like a virgin. Oh, right.
Yes, she did a routine where she was on a stage and she put herself on a cross and put her arms out. Okay, so this is what Catholicism does. It is designed by design. Take people who have a chance to go to Jesus Christ and get saved and distract them. No. You need Mary the co-redemptrix. You need Mary the co-mediatrix. And this is why the Roman Catholic Church had the Bible. What were the Dark Ages? The Dark Ages were the 1,000 years from 538 AD all the way to 1517, really a little bit before 1498, where the Roman Catholic Church had buried the Bible and made it forbidden and kept it only in Latin. And if you were caught with a Bible, you were burned alive. The Bible was tied around your neck, the way poor John Wycliffe's Lollards, they were going out and preaching the Christianity to people with hand-copied Bibles. If they were captured by inquisitors, they were burned alive. No entity. So in relation to who are the real enemies of Christians, hands down, it is the sovereign city-state of Rome. Hands down. Between military Rome and religious Rome, no entity, not Jews, not Muslims, no entity has tortured and murdered more Christians. People don't even know. Okay, when you talk about the Crusades, what are the Crusades? That's when the Christians went and killed Jews and Muslims in the Holy Land. No, it's not. It's when Roman Catholics went and killed Muslims and Jews and European Christians. Did you know that there were crusades? I want to say it was urban. I forget the number. Yes, the Albigenses and the Valdenses, where Roman Catholic knights went into Eastern Europe, into the Alps, and slaughtered Christians, the Valdenses and the Albigenses, who were Bible-believing Christians, took their women and children and threw them off cliffs, bashed their heads against rocks. Just utter brutality. Nobody's heard of this.
And just imagine these people that were bashing the children's head on rocks, they're order followers. They're just saying, okay, boss. Yep. Like, how evil. Oh my God. Like,
Sean, there's no such thing as jihad outside of the Catholic Church.
Right.
There's no such thing. This is why the Chinese Communist government, a real estate mogul tied to Stephen Kevin Bannon, of all people, Stephen Kevin Bannon, named Go Wen Gui. who made an astounding statement that I have the video of, that communist China, the dreaded tyranny of communist China, donates $2 billion a year in Peter's pence to the Catholic Church, to the Vatican. Wait, what? Communist China donates $2 billion a year in Peter's pence. What is this?
Didn't Mao say that religion is the opiate of the masses? I mean,
well, and Mao Zedong would know because he got his start in a Catholic church.
Right. Oh, right. Mao
Zedong got his start in a Catholic church.
Well, then he would know that religion is poison, right?
It is mind control. It is mind control, and nobody controls minds. Like I said, what does the Catholic Church that the Jews and the Freemasons don't have? The confessional, Sean. Confessional, where they own.
And we talked about it earlier on my show, how they brought it down to 7 years old.
Yeah. Yes.
And then Loyola was like, "Give us a child of 7, and I give you the
Xavier
man."
said, "Give me the child until he's 7. I'll give you the man."
Yeah,
absolutely. Wow. And they will be devoid of their own will. It is the control of sin and guilt, and no other organization owns that. And this is why Communist China donates $2 billion a year to the Vatican, the real power, because for the same reason that kings and queens of old were terrified of being excommunicated, not because they put any substance into the ridiculous idea that if you were kicked out of the Catholic Church, you lost your salvation. No, that's just utterly absurd. They were terrified of the idea of the Pope excommunicating a king and then turning to the millions of the king's subjects and saying, "You are no longer bound in loyalty to your king or your queen." They are excommunicado and apostate, as we say in John Wick. Excommunicado. So now you're looking around at the Roman Catholic Hispanic lady that cleans your toilet, the Roman Catholic gardener that you have, the Roman Catholic woman that Typhoid Mary that makes your food. Okay, literally Typhoid Mary. Did you know that Typhoid Mary was buried in honors at Fordham, Jesuit Fordham Cemetery?
No, I didn't know that.
Yes.
She killed so many. She was a cook,
an Irish Roman Catholic cook who probably, there's no such thing as viruses. She was probably poisoning people by going to the bathroom and not wiping herself.
And she kept getting almost everybody would die, and then she would move on to the next house.
Right.
It would, she would never get in trouble. It was almost like it was planned.
Right. Oh, good for you. And that's why she's buried with honors at Jesuit Fordham, the same school that Donald John Trump went to for 2 years before he transferred to the private University of Pennsylvania that was secretly run by the Jesuits. So, Sean, this is real
the same fear that you were saying earlier of if the loss of power, if the Pope just says to all his minion people that believe him, "Oh, the president of the United States is no good anymore." That's why everybody was scared of if JFK became president because he was Catholic, and then there was ever before him there was all WASP presidents. There was never a Roman Catholic president before that. Yeah,
they were all closet Catholics and Freemasons.
Well, the Freemason, of course, right from the beginning. Right. But I mean,
the beginning. Look at a guy. Not to step on him, but look at a guy from the beginning. From the beginning, we just covered this the other day on my show. George Washington, pardon me, on his deathbed, given last rites by his best friend, a Jesuit, Leonard Neal. George Washington died. He spent his entire life pretending not to be Catholic, but on his deathbed, he asked for last rites from his best friend, a Jesuit, Leonard Neal. He kept the picture of Mary in his mansion, Mary and St. John. The Catholics love to distract with John, particularly John the Baptist, because there is a heresy called Johannism that says Jesus of Nazareth was an imposter and John the Baptist was the real Messiah. That's why Johannism.
But he's like the opposite in the celestial, the way that when they were born, their birthdays are opposite or something. Well,
they were cousins.
Right. Okay. But I mean, their birth charts were opposite, basically, with us.
Yeah. I wouldn't doubt
so
that.
Apparently, what I'm saying is that if John the Baptist is white, then Jesus would be black, or the opposite. You know what I mean?
Sure, okay. Yeah. Gaslighting. Sure.
So it's like a swapping with the exact opposite of the celestial. It's weird, but I mean, like the whole Mary stuff goes back to Ishtar, goes back to the Babylon, which is where the Talmud was written, right?
Right.
Sorry to bring it back to the Talmud here, but I mean, like this, the emotions you said earlier, how they want the emotions to rule us, right? So that we react without thinking. And so this, like, I mean, ancient Babylon, they were throwing children into the fires. I mean, that is revolting to any normal human.
Something that gets done millions of times a day today.
Right. I mean, and they, like and the Jews, they give their children to the priests to have the baby's genitals mutilated.
I will tell you that. So for me, from my perspective, that there is from a Christian perspective, this has a legitimate basis and a foundation in pointing towards a spiritual truth. In that it's a physical truth from a Christian perspective of the circumcision. And if you look in Scripture, technically in the New Testament, you're told to circumcise your heart. In fact, it's actually in the Old Testament as well. It's in the Old Testament as well. It is a metaphor. It is a metaphor for you shedding your selfishness. It is a metaphor for you digging into your compassion and your empathy. It is a metaphor for that, and it was absolutely rendered obsolete on the cross. Right. There should be no Christian anywhere. Why are there still circumcision? Why are the hospitals 80% are still circumcised? Because they're dominated by the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church wants to perperpetuate that because it is a syncretistic amalgam of Luciferianism
and they follow the word or whatever of the American Association of Pediatrics, which is run by a Jew,
right?
Who like can't say that there is. I mean, they admit that there's no medical reason anymore. They admitted that
it was spiritual and
but if they metaphor. If they admit that there is no reason for to physically do it, then that makes all of so they have to keep up the lie, and they have this Jewish guy at the head of it. But I mean, really, it's sexual abuse of children, and it creates like a dissociative state, and it creates like a learned helplessness, and it makes a slave, and if the Romans wanted, and it is the mark of a slave from the ancient times, and also when
as is piercing the ear, a mark of a Roman slave.
Oh, really?
Yes, piercing the ear is a mark of a Roman slave.
They do that to babies too. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. They do it culturally. They encourage minorities and blacks to have their ears pierced as part of what black man doesn't have a pierced ear, and yet anybody outside of that culture. So wait a minute, that's effeminate. I don't pierce my ear. I don't wear an earring. That's part of black culture to mock them.
But really, it's Babylonian culture, right? Yeah. Like the Babylonian, like whores of Babylon used to wear the earrings and the makeup and stuff.
Nose rings? Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So like that's where it came from. And these were like, the common Babylonian tradition that the Jewish people were living amongst for 1,000 years or whatever. Their religion was Ishtar, Inanna, and they would have whores for the church, and this whole it mingled, like they were living together for 1,000 years. So like the way that the Babylonian Jews think is based on like the same like framework as the God, I don't know what you call them, like Sumerian, like the old religion. Like, I mean, it's so that frames their minds as to how. And then when when Moses came along, he was given the same like treatment as what a Babylonian king would get, was treated the same way in their history. And, so like it was cross-cultural intermingling, right? And It's interesting how like the Roman Catholics are the continuation of that old religion.
I will tell you exactly right. Now that there was a repeated purification process from the Christian perspective that brought back the remnant again and again. This is what the genesis of Samaritans are. Why Samaritans are disdained upon. The Babylonian captivity. The word is syncretism, a melding of the original with exterior. The melding of original truth with exterior untruth. And this is what happened at the Israeli Civil War, where roughly 10 tribes, not specifically, not strictly, roughly 10 tribes broke away. But those who were loyal to Judaism stayed near the temple because that's where the sacrifices were. So it wasn't strictly the 10 tribes. It was mostly Judah, mostly Benjamin, mostly Levi stayed south, but there were other tribes, members of other tribes, who were very dedicated to following Judaism as they knew it to be true, and they stayed to the south. But the northern kingdom was apostate right away. They were apostate right away, and they were eventually conquered by the Assyrians. And when they were conquered by the Assyrians forced them to intermarry and intermingle, which was a violation of Mosaic law, and they became syncretistic. They adopted the paganism of the Assyrians and the Canaanites. And then the same eventually happened to the Judeans, the southern kingdom of Judah. They were captured by the Babylonians, brought to Babylon, and they started to intermingle and intermarry, just like you were saying. And then there was a small remnant of those that fiercely wanted to stand to the truth, and they were encouraged with the advent of Cyrus to go home. They were comfortable. The vast majority were comfortable. They didn't want to leave, so they didn't.
Right.
And they stayed, and they were happy to be slaves in Babylon because it was comfortable. They had a way of life. The Babylonians weren't stupid. They gave them a way where they could live and be comfortable. But there was a remnant that returned to Israel to maintain that truth. And this is the essence of Samaria was the capital of the northern kingdom of Israel, which had intermingled and intermarried and had created alternative locations of worship that weren't related to Jerusalem and the temple. And
there was a larger population there too in Babylon.
Yes, there was. Yes, there was. And one of the first things that Jeroboam did was to create not one, but 2 golden calves of worship for the northern kingdom of Israel. They were apostate right away. And this is the majority of Judaism. And today it's Judaism completely. But you absolutely nailed it when you say that's what the Catholic Church is. The Catholic Church is a mirror image in its syncretism, a mirror image. It is a mixing. You look at all the Catholic pomp and circumstance, the mitre, the fish mitre that the cardinals and popes wear, has nothing to do with Christianity. It's Dagon fish worship. You can actually see it. Some of them, and this is how they do. I think there's a Pope St. John Paul fish mitre where they put the 6-pointed stars as the eyes of the fish, and then the tails and the red mouth. They're doing that on purpose to make you see that. It's not. It's Dagon fish worship. What is the 6-pointed star? Does the 6-pointed star have anything to do with Judaism? No. It was part of the fabrication of phony Israel in modern times. From a Christian perspective, there is no such thing as modern Israel. The thousands and thousands, probably millions of Christians that promote Zionism and Israel, modern Israel, are completely punked by Rome.
It's a fiction, right?
They have no idea. They don't read their own Bible. It's extremely clear from the book of Romans to the book of Galatians that a modern Christian, there are 2 paths. There's the path of the flesh, Paul calls it, that is Judaism, and then there's the path of the spirit that is anyone that's completely devoid of a bloodline lineage. Being a Christian has nothing to do with a bloodline. And modern Israel is a complete fabrication. And by the way, very interesting. Did you know that Caesarea was once a colony of the Genoese in Italy? What in the 1200s? In the
Really?
1200s. So surprise, surprise, all of a sudden the Khazarians are transplanted from Russia into Israel and they become modern Israel. Who's controlling it? Who's pulling the strings to fabricate modern Israel so that think about this, if Jerusalem didn't exist, what big city would be left for you to look at? Rome.
Right.
Okay, you so Washington, D.C., London. Which city has the gravitas? Which city has the history? Which city has the control over eons? That's Rome. Right. So if you're not looking at Jerusalem, you're looking at Rome. So you look at Jerusalem instead. So syncretism is absolutely what we have in Roman Catholicism. Syncretism.
Right. So the emotions, they want us to have our emotions be driving our will, and to not have a will of our own, to just react instead. This not having a will comes up again. This, because that's the core of slavery, right? So tell us how. So this book, this Talmud, it's like a discussion. You said it was because the Torah is kind of open, and they had
distraction. It's a distraction from the Bible. It's an encouragement to Jews to not find the deep truths of the scriptures, and instead to look to a source of the precepts of men. In fact, you are told, let me find the passage here. You are told specifically not to Isaiah 29. Because let's see here. Woe to the Jews, woe to the children of David. The people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is based on human rules, on man-made rules learned by memorization. That's the Talmud. That's Isaiah 29. Isaiah 29:13 says, my children ignore me and give me lip service, and instead focus on memorizing what other men have written, not what I have written in the scriptures.
Right. That's important to note, that the Talmud is the real law, and the Torah is the suggestion. They
flip it. They call it the Holy Talmud. It's not holy. It's man-made interpretations, but
that's where all their law is based on, that because that is what all the discussions hashed out, all whatever that the Torah leaves open. So the Talmud is the more refined, in their opinion.
And the really sad thing, the really ironic thing, is that these are not. You could easily make this up, according to Rabbi so-and-so. It's like Rabbi one name. Okay, listen to me if I have any of these names. Rav Papa. In the beginning of a prophet, the end of the sorcerer, Rav Papa said, as the people say, Mary was a descendant of princes and rulers. She played a harlot. Rav Papa. Who the heck is Rav Papa? You can make this up. Right. You can completely make this up. And yet these are the holy scriptures for Jews.
Hello, they call me Rav Papa.
Yeah, right. But meanwhile, you can look at, like Daniel chapter 9, you can go into the prophecy, and you can, this is what put Robert Anderson. This is what put Robert Anderson on the map of looking up Daniel chapter 9 from the going forth of the command to restore and rebuild Jerusalem. There are acknowledged places in history where post the Babylonian captivity, various people, Cyrus was one, but also Artaxerxes Longimanus was another, and he was the one that was tracked down. There are moments in history you can point your finger at and say, here's an actual start point. March 14th, 445 BC is when Artaxerxes Longimanus told the Jewish captives to go back and rebuild, not just rebuild, but also rebuild the defenses, rebuild the walls, rebuild the moat, and rebuild the temple. That's unprecedented. That's easy to find in history, and that's where, boom, we start the clock. 173,880 days. Starts March 14th, 445 BC. Start counting. You cross over. Make sure you use the lunar calendar, not the Jesuit Gregorian calendar of the true lunar calendar of only 30-day months and 360-day years. And
it's like 29 and this many hours.
29 and a quarter.
Minutes. Yeah.
What Jesuit? Oh, wait a minute. Literally a Jesuit named Christopher Clavius. Why would a Jesuit? And here's the power of the Jesuits. It's the Jews. It's the Masons. Who uses the modern calendar? Everyone. Everyone uses the Gregorian calendar. That's the power of the Jesuits. That's the power of Rome. Why do we have such a ridiculous, convoluted calendar? Because for that exact reason. So if you're looking up in the Christian Bible to match up what the prophecies were to what Jesus did, you can't make heads or tail out of it. But it was done. If you start at March 14th, 445 BC, and count 173,880 days, you come to April 6, 32 AD, the exact day that Yeshua of Nazareth, rode into Jerusalem on the back of a donkey, as was predicted, to the day. And this is why we have Jesuits making our calendars. The very first thing the Jesuits did when they came into China was to teach the emperor about the stars and to make the Chinese calendar. That's real power. To give you your reality. That's real power.
Right.
Who
framing
created
how we even think of time itself and like
given to you by Jesuits. And that's right out of the Bible. Daniel 7:25. The little horn that speaks blasphemy will change times and laws. Right out of prophecy. And that's why Daniel's not allowed amongst the prophets by the Jews, because Daniel told you who the Christ was and who the Antichrist was. The Christ is Jesus of Nazareth, and the Antichrist is every pope. Every pope. Like Jesus said in Matthew 24, many will come in my name. Me, you don't believe. Many will come in my name. Okay, so if you ask the average person on the street today, who's the Antichrist? Hitler? Was Hitler there? Did Hitler ever claim to be Jesus? No. But
that's the official role of the Pope, is the pontiff, what do you call it? The
vicarious Filii Dei, the 666. The vicarious Filii Dei, the 666. You take vicarious Filii Dei.
Right.
It is. If you take vicarious Filii Dei in Latin and add up the Roman numerals and their numerological, you get 666 vicarious Filii Dei. Awesome. It's right there. It's in your face. It's in your face.
Right. And 666 is a solar number, and then that's their solar deity of Sol Invictus.
It's the ultimate number of incompletion and of man. It's the ultimate number of man and of incompletion. And
right. And if you look at the Kabbalah, it's on the tree. Like I think Malkuth is 666, and 777 is like the
my goodness, yes.
Triad or whatever, right?
Yes, Solomon. King Solomon was told not to accrue wealth and horses, and yet it tells you in the scriptures that he accrued 666 talents of gold. Tells you right there. So that's to me is a little, hey, he's doing something wrong. And it tells you later on, don't accrue wives and horses and gold because they will turn your heart away, and that's exactly what happened to Solomon.
Yeah.
He had many wives.
Don't eat grasshoppers to Baal.
Right. Don't murder your children. Don't burn your children alive. With Yahweh says, did not even enter my mind. What are you doing? I wouldn't even think of that. And you're worshiping demons by burning your children alive. You have this disgusting demonic cauldron and an iron bull that's red hot, and you drop your baby into it so that you can get ahead through some kind of what are you doing? What are you doing?
They're still doing it.
Apostate. And not only are they doing it, not only the Jews doing it, modern Israel is a hub of abortion and homosexuality, but people around the world, everywhere around the world is doing it. Everywhere around the world. So is it any surprise that Europe is an absolute cesspool today? They're just tyranny, absolute cesspool. That they've so thoroughly taken all the guns out of the UK. They're now doing what China does, and they're licensing the knives. Wow. Kids are not licensing the knives. Yeah,
that's like a prison. Like I've worked in the kitchen of the prison that I was at, and they register, they check them, they every knife is followed, and you're not allowed to touch it outside this barrier. Like it's crazy, dude. That's next,
it is,
right?
and this is how you have look at New Zealand, where they had a literal, was it Australia? No, it's Australia. if I can remember off the top of my head, of the COVID concentration camp.
Oh,
I remember
right.
the name of the town.
Yeah, they put barriers between the towns, and they
No,
were
it's a
making
prison. It was a little prison.
People that would come in on planes would have to go to this prison for like a
Oh,
certain amount of time.
you were mandated off your
Right.
own dime to spend 2
Right.
weeks in a hotel of their choice, and
Crazy.
to isolate, to self-isolate.
Meanwhile, in America, the people that are coming over here, over our border, are getting free stay at hotels,
Oh,
these
my
high-end hotels in New York and stuff. It's
Ron,
crazy.
they're in California. They're making them cops. They're making illegal aliens cops.
I thought, I knew that they were going to accept them into the military, but they're
Right.
I
Oh,
mean,
and
cops.
listen.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. It turned
So
them
we're
into
going to be
cops.
enslaved by these foreigners. Like,
Right.
this is what was happening in Rome. Like,
Right.
what the fuck?
Right.
Oh
Camp
man,
Howard.
excuse my
It's
language.
Camp Howard, I think it is. Camp Howard, the COVID concentration camp in Australia. Out of your mind.
Right.
Out of your mind. Look it up. There's a what's the name of the magazine? It was Real Clear Politics inside Australia's Howard Springs. I'm sorry, Howard Springs. Corona hoax. I don't call it COVID. COVID is the new scary medical term. It's coronavirus, corona hoax, corona sun. They are the sun worshipers.
Sol
Mary
Invictus, right?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
And it's a concentration camp. Why? Because they took all the guns with the which was the
now they have to be not racist in their concentration camp. They have to, everybody can be evil by having this imaginary disease, like, all they got to do is point a finger at you, like,
right.
so you know, these people that are still on, like, really hard on the Trump train. I've heard floating around a theory that the jabs were actually a win, because Trump did it on purpose, and he sped it up with warp speed in order to keep us out of COVID camps. Oh, because COVID camps were coming, and then the vaccine is the only way to, in quotes, vaccine was the only way to keep us from being put in camps. Like, this is what, he saved us by jabbing us with poison and killing us with.
I heard this no less from Eddie Bravo, the
Right.
guru. Eddie Bravo said this. I may have even saying it to Rogan.
Well, yeah, he might have said it to Rogan. Right.
Trump was a secret savior by doing warp speed, because he saved us with his version, with his vax, as opposed to the other vax that would have killed more of us. What
like the levels of, like, cognitive dissonance are so beyond, and oh my God.
The sad fact is that these are guys who are beholden to the machine. Eddie's very successful. Rogan's very successful. They do not want to put themselves at risk by rocking the boat, and so they contort.
They could be legit dupes that could actually believe.
Most of them, the majority of them are. The majority of them are dupes. They have no clue, and they just know.
So it's no, like, ill will of theirs. You know what I mean?
Well, I would say they're crushing the small voice, Sean. They're crushing the small voice, where they're reaching around, and the machine smacks their hand when they reach out and they get to some truth. They get to some truth, and the machine smacks their hand. They pull their hand back, and then they reach out and they find a Jew, and they grab the yarmulke and they pull it in, and the machine rewards them. Right? They reach out, they grab a crucifix, and the machine smacks their hand, and they pull it back, and they reach out and they grab a yarmulke, and the machine goes, "Oh, here's a flower. Here's a Girl Scout cookie." Okay, and okay, it's the Jews. The vast majority of them, I will guarantee you. Even though Stu Peters, in no way, shape, or form do I believe that his absolute literal crusade against Jews is his idea, I thoroughly believe that he was trained without any direct conversation to do what he's doing. I thoroughly believe that he was trained to go into that path by that exact. It's called the beat of the drum. You ever hear of the art of war? written by Jesuits, supposedly written by Sun Tzu, except the only problem is there's no such person as Sun Tzu. It was translated by a Jesuit because it was written by Jesuits. It was them bragging about their battle tactics, and it's they control their puppets and their minions by the beat of the drum. When I beat the drum here and you hear it, you will turn in this direction. Right. If you don't, you'll receive the penalty for that. And that's the vast majority of their puppets do that. I very, very, very few people.
Are you speaking of this latest Stu Peters documentary, Occupied?
Oh my goodness!
Have you seen that? I mean, it's all Max Egan and this one other guy that's like another thief. Like, they're all just like, oh, Hitler was right. You know, it was a good idea. And like, I mean, it's unbelievable. Exactly. Like, and so I actually did a show with Etienne de la Boussy Squared, who's a friend of mine, another anarchist, and the listeners should go back and check that out. We did one. It was the last appearance with Etienne, and we tore it down. And we also talked about on a previous show, we talked about his Died Suddenly documentary and how that was, I mean, it was a little bit of truth, but it also brings us into these like rabbit hole tunnel vision scenarios. And also, like, if you ever type into your search finder Died Suddenly, it comes up that movie instead of like all of the true accounts of the people that really had actual problems. And so it's like he's working within this, that it's his job. Like, it has been his job. He continues doing it. The whole thing with the snake water, like I mean, that's crazy. Like, and that was his first
Brian Artist. And did you hear Brian Artist, the chiropractor, one day out of the blue just snap and say it's the Jesuits? Dude, look that up. This is the same guy that did the snake water. Okay, Brian Artist, the same guy that did the snake water, out of the blue. And as far as I know, he was one and done. And he says it's all Pope Francis, all the Jesuits, and then never hit that again. So I'm like, what are you doing? So to me, this is, I'm going to give myself cred. I'm going to give myself credibility, and I'm going to tell you who's really in charge, and I'm never going to hit that again. And this way you have, it's the mere fact that you do this for a living and you've never heard him say that tells me this was part of their plan. Look up Brian Artist Jesuits. He comes out and he tells it, and I don't even recognize the host. I've never seen the host before. So a perfect venue for it to disappear, for him to get his credibility and then drop it and move on. So this is what they do. It's blown cover, as Frederick Tupper Saucy would say, of walking you, taking you by hand, walking you right up to the fires of truth, and then walking you away, distracting you from it.
Yes. This Occupied documentary was produced by a flat earther who believes there's more land beyond Antarctica. And if we could just get over there, then we could go have freedom.
No, nobody who questions. I'm not a flat earther. No,
I'm glad, but I'm just saying.
Nobody who questions spinning globes. Nobody who questions spinning globes given to you by Rome, by Roman Catholic priest Nicholas Copernicus, by devout Roman Catholic Galileo Galilei, who was teaching at the premier Jesuit college, the Collegio Romano, when he was examined by Roberto Bellarmino. Okay, no one who questions spinning globes will tell you that there's some kind of lost world. Sir Arthur Ignatius Conan Doyle. There's some kind of dinosaur-filled lost world beyond that Antarctica. Okay, no one's going to tell you that any more than they're going to go for the ridiculous hollow Earth. That's all a psyop to bring you close to the truth. So you do your own research. You are your own scientist, and you say, okay, we're told. I look up, make my own observation. The sun and moon look absolutely identical to me. They are complete. And as a matter of fact, they have to be identical for eclipses to work. If they're not identical, eclipse doesn't work. And it works flawlessly. And what the experts tell you is, no. The sun is 400 times bigger than the moon. But by coincidence, mind, it just so happens to be 400 times away from the moon. It's an optical illusion. Don't trust your own eyes. Trust the experts. We'll take a sample. We'll go and we'll test your sample, and we'll tell you if you have the corona hoax. We'll tell you if you have AIDS. And Anthony Fauci, the Jesuit, will come and kill you with AZT.
Right.
Okay.
If you believe, then they'll kill you.
Right. Right. Well, it's when you
It's
when
a
you
culling
finally,
operation.
when you finally realize you've been lied to is when you become a conspiracy theorist.
Right.
You
Right.
when you realize I've got that great scene, Whitman, Price, and I died from Running Man.
But I mean, just because it just I mean, there can be a coincidence. It can be true that there is a coincidence that the moon is this much closer than the sun. And it makes sense because of the way that, anyway, I don't want to get into that, but still,
That's
like,
okay. But and that's absolutely true if it were by itself. But it's not. There's so
Right,
the
right,
machine is telling you your eyes have played tricks on you.
right.
Meanwhile, there are other facts you can validate and verify on your own to throw the BS flag on NASA, who uses billions
Right.
of your dollars to do nothing, such as the supposed curvature of the Earth. There supposedly is an 8-inch drop every 8-inch drop every mile. And that's logarithmic. That's not simple addition. So there's a 32-inch drop for 2 miles. There's a 66.6 foot drop for 10 miles and a 6,666 foot drop for 100 miles. Now, if you go to any body of water, because water finds its own level, and 2, 3, 4, 5 miles, you put a target at the other end and you run a laser across that, you will see there is absolutely no drop whatsoever. There's no curvature. You can prove for yourself, there's no curvature of the Earth. They have lied to you. So I'm not a flat earther. I'm simply a spinning globe skeptic. You told me the Earth is a spinning globe. You told me the Earth is moving at over 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. And I'm telling you, you're full of poop because I'm looking up for myself. Okay.
Well, we love to hear all the theories and all of the ideas on this show.
I don't care.
We're thankful that you're sharing with us today.
I don't care what the theory is of what it really is. I'm saying that what they're telling you is a lie. That's all I'm saying.
Usually is. I mean,
what they're telling you is a lie.
Right. And so, okay. So what is the Talmud telling us? Is there like a specific thread that so you told us earlier that it's there as a distraction to distract from the truth of Jesus and their revelation of that, right?
It's there to trap well-meaning Jews, pull them away from true spirituality.
Right.
It's designed to pull them away from true spirituality by making something sacred that is ridiculous.
Well, it's sacred, and it's also the word of man. These are arguments between men, and then they're
I just read it out of Isaiah 29. It's exactly it's in direct abrogation to what the prophet Isaiah told the original, the real, the true children of Israel, children of Jacob. He told them, don't be distracted by memorizing the words of men and women. And that's exactly what they are today. That's exactly what they are today.
So the words of men and women can omit morality if they choose,
or spin you towards an evil morale, lack of morality, or spin you towards to this idea. And I don't have a quote here, but
like the whole idea of Gentiles are cattle, and we can
and it's okay to kill a Gentile. I don't have that in front of me, but I've heard that.
Yeah, there's bad ones. Like you can rape a child up to 3 years. It's just like putting your finger in her eye. There's like quotes from the Talmud that are like, holy crap.
Right. And you're not going to find that in the Bible. You're not going to find you need to distract them. You need to pull them away from truth and point them towards this script that is going to help make them bad guys. That is going to help make them hated.
So like these people that study this Torah, they're so voluminous, like all these folios.
The Talmud, not the Torah.
The Talmud, right. The Torah, the Talmud is so voluminous, and there's so many folios that need to be studied by these people. So they put their entire consciousness into it, and some of them, like, they do this folio a day or whatever, where they do 2 pages every day, and like that culminates in like 7 years, and like the whole world's Jews are all studying together, and so it's like a mastermind of the dark occult. But anyway,
it is cultish. It is cult. It is occultic and cultish.
yeah.
Almost 3,000 pages. Almost 3,000 pages.
So it consumes your consciousness. Your whole consciousness has to be like all the way into it, and then it gives you this 1 or 2 lines here and there, like it's okay to steal from Gentiles. Right. In any court proceeding, the Jew always wins. Like this, and then those things are kind of just filed away in the heads of these people that are like, so it is the repetition is like mind control. It's most simple.
Absolutely.
Mind control,
absolutely. Repetition. And that's why that Jesus says, Matthew, right before one of the most mindlessly repeated prayers in human history, the so-called Our Father, Jesus says, don't mindlessly repeat prayer the way the heathen do. Here is an outline. And what happens? Human beings take his outline and mindlessly repeat it billions and billions of times. When prior to it, as a prelude to the Our Father in Matthew chapter 6, he says, don't mindlessly repeat as the heathen do. And that's what happens. Mindless repetition is mind control.
Meanwhile, while the priest is making you say that, you got to kneel down and then stand up and then sit down and then kneel down and stand up.
I've got pictures. You know how integral Roman Catholic chaplains and priests are to pedophile Baden Powell's Boy Scouts, and I've got pictures of altar boys and Boy Scouts on their knees in front of priests to receive the Eucharist, right? The little round wafer.
Yeah, they put out their tongue. Yeah. Gross.
That has nothing to do with Christianity, dude. Nothing to do with. If you ever have seen a Eucharist wafer, it's got Gnostic symbolism. The Maltese cross is not Christian. It is not a Christian cross. It is. I
totally forgot it's the Maltese cross. Holy crap!
Of course,
I just did 2 episodes with William Ramsey. That he was doing research into the Knights of Malta and the military order, the Hospitallers, and all this. Like we were getting all into that real deep and talking about Caravaggio and all this, and I forgot completely the Eucharist wafer has the Maltese cross. Yes. It's like it is Jesus's body, but it's also the Maltese cross.
The greatest award you could receive in the Nazi Third Reich is the Iron Cross.
Right.
First class, right? The Iron Cross first class is the greatest award you could receive for serving Nazi Germany. That's because Heinrich Himmler was an ordained Jesuit. Okay, Adolf Hitler's Mein Kampf was written by a Jesuit, Bernard Stampfel,
and Galen was a Maltese Knights of Malta, who was like right in there with Bernard Galen, Gehlen, was Knights of Malta.
Yes, the secret police. Yes, and he also helped to organize that in the Cold War.
Right.
Reinhard Himmler. Yes,
right. And so, exactly. So like the Knights of Malta or the Hospitallers never went away. You know what I mean? No. Just like Rome never went away.
No.
Like,
neither did the Templars. They just went underground. Although Philippe le Bel, Francis IV of France, did about as good a job as you could to suppress the Catholic Church and move the Vatican from Rome to Avignon and suppress their special forces, the Templars, but he paid for it with his life. He was assassinated. And all they did was go underground, and they became the Swiss bankers and the Swiss Guard of today.
Right.
That's who the Templars are today.
Right.
And they live
look at their flag. Like it's,
oh my goodness,
right there, it's the Templar
right
flag.
In your face. Right in your face.
Right.
And they don't, and we don't see it. Even the KKK. Even the KKK. If you look at the KKK, it has 666 with a Maltese cross. Right in your face. It's right in your face. And the 666, the Vicarious Filii Dei, the great, the Pontifex Maximus, the bridge builder from the other world. Which world? Not up, down. This is why when they were doing that crazy stuff with CERN, while they're doing that crazy stuff with the Lucifer telescope at the Public University of Arizona on Mount Graham, they stole that land from the Apache. It was a sacred burial ground. What? Wait a minute. Why do you have to have your observatory on a sacred Apache burial ground? For the same reason that the Incas had to cut living hearts out, and today we worship, the Catholics worship the living heart of Jesus and the living heart of Mary. It's the syncretism, demonic syncretism of paganism adopted by the Catholic Church.
Oh. Puts me in mind of the elevator in The Shining, and like it was built on Indian burial ground, and like that's why it had the power. Like all these ghosts were infesting this place.
Ley lines. Every major cathedral is built on dead bodies, Sean.
Right.
Every major cathedral. You're told to go to it. You're told to have a mini pilgrimage to go to the stained glass and look, especially St. Patrick's in New York. Go look up the number of famous people buried under St. Patrick's. That's not some kind of museum. Right. That's this demonic magic we're talking about.
Right. It's a domination of those people. And speaking of the demonic magic, maybe last year or the year before, I was speaking with Dr. Hans Utter about the burning of Notre Dame, and the lead roof was taken away. And he was speaking about how the lead roof was like capping in that energy and that evil, right? That was.
I gotta look that one up. That sounds like a dynamite interview. I gotta look that up.
They removed, just before it burned, they took down a bunch of the statues, and they removed the heads of the statues that were around this portal, right? And then they take the statues down to clean them, in quotes, but they have to remove the heads to clean them. It was very odd.
You would never face a statue like that by slopping the head off.
Taking the head off is like this is the opening of the portal, right? They take off the lead. It like burned so much that there was like lead falling on the sidewalks, like half a mile away. Like it was just so, So this was intentional. This, in order to bring on this new evil COVID.
That reminds me of Kaiser Wilhelm at St. Etienne Cathedral, demanding that the head of Daniel the prophet be removed from the statue there. And my understanding is no less a force than Adolf Hitler returned the head to itself.
It's so important, right? It's such an important deal. And then it was just like put in this news thing on like, it was like a AAP, it was a Associated Press news thing. There's like a couple minutes video of like, you can see them taking the statues down, and then you see the heads removed, and it was like displayed on TV. So we see it, the dark occult is doing their revelation. And it was very interesting about
magic
how like,
them, Sean. It's magic. And what is magic? It is their attempt to empower themselves interdimensionally. They believe it's formula driven, but that's the lie. It's not formula driven. It's very simple. It's what the real mark of the beast. It's what the mark of the beast actually is. Revelation 13. It's what the mark of the beast actually is. It's simply your desire, with your forehead and on your mark of the beast, on your forehead and on your right hand. It's your desire to do evil. You think you want to do evil, and then you act it out with evil, and you're just telling Satan, I'm yours. I'm going to do evil. I'm yours. That's all the mark of the beast is. Man. And so they think they have a magic formula. Okay, well, if I murder a baby and the baby's blood trickles down here and spells out this word, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is you're murdering a baby. What the F is wrong with you?
Right. And what it does to your conscious will to kill something that doesn't deserve. And that's like damning yourself. Right. Right.
This is the truth behind David Icke's crazy reptilian stuff. What you are willing yourself out of your humanity. Right. You have made the decision to cauterize your conscience for its own aggrandizement. You willed yourself to close off your compassion and your empathy to do this evil, dastardly thing so that you can get ahead. You turned yourself into a subhuman. Right. You willed it, and that's what's really going on. These people are no longer human because they decided not to be, not because they're secretly half real reptile or whatever, or Nephilim or whatever the case is, but because they chose to make themselves less human to conduct these terrible acts so that they can get ahead. It's the essence of secret societies, Freemasonry, and especially the Jesuits.
Perfectly said. Thank you. Very well said.
That's it. The devil simulation, man. That's what I talk about in my third book, Eaters of Children. Why? Because it's you get level and level and level. Why would you go there? It is a marking point of loyalty. What are you willing to do? Are you willing to break into a car? Are you willing to rob somebody? Are you willing to kill somebody? Are you willing to kill a puppy? Are you willing to kill a human? Are you willing to rape a child? Are you willing to kill a child? What are you willing to do? And each step you're willing to be more and more and more evil, to cauterize your conscience more and more. You become less and less human. You rise through the ranks. So stop, pause. Now look at everybody in key positions. Now, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Justin Castro Trudeau, son of Pierre Trudeau. Each of these people at these high ranks, I assure you, have proven themselves to be sociopaths devoid of their humanity. They would not be in the position that they are in had they not shown themselves to be proven as true sociopaths devoid of empathy towards victims, towards innocent people. So stop thinking that you can vote them in or vote them out. MAGA, let's make America great again. By the way, that's witchcraft. MAGA is witchcraft.
Yes, so exactly. Yes, MAGA.
These are people who are completely devoid of their humanity. They are sociopaths. Okay, these are people that for raping kids is nothing to them. We're talking about torturing kids, eating kids. This is how they prove themselves. Right. And you have to prove yourself as an insider to the machine. That's what the machine demands your loyalty by. You won't get up into position of power any other way. I assure you, there's no such thing as a political outsider. No such thing.
That machine was working in the days of Babylon, when they were asking people to give their children.
That's exactly what that is. That's exactly what that is. Do you have integrity, or are you going to get ahead by committing this satanic act, this unbelievably evil act of taking your own child and burning them alive to get ahead? To what? So that you can water your crops? Whatever the case is, you're still doing it for a selfish motive. Okay, as opposed to someone who is internally sound and said, no, that's my I'm not doing that. Okay, but many of these people are deranged. Many of these people
that's all we got to do. Right. Just say no.
All you have to do is resist. Yeah. Resist your temptation. Resist your selfishness. Resist. That's why, by the way, no legitimate Christian can ever be a Freemason. What is Freemasonry? You have to sell yourself to the secret society of insiders so that you can get ahead. Now, it's all kinds of sources that point towards Billy Graham being a Freemason, and supposedly part of the temptation was, hey, you can use the gospel to fill stadiums. Why wouldn't you do that? Just join us. Wait, I don't need you. I don't need to sell my soul to Freemasonry to make myself loyal to your agenda so that the guy that's bigger, the creator of the universe, can get ahead. Maybe it's just not meant to be. That's not apparently what Billy Graham did.
Well, the Freemasons, in the old days at least, would delve into the study, and their whole minds would be in this, just like the people studying the Talmud. It was like blinders, another way of mind control with the repetition again, and then they're giving them the Kabbalah stuff, and they
for their own manipulated purpose. Yes, right. to manipulate it for their favor. I'm afraid, and much more the Jesuits do. Much more the Jesuits do. It's in the Jesuit oath. By the blood of, how do they put it? Jesuit. It's not going to come up with the internet. I have an archive that's buried. Jesuit. Oh,
so really, like it's a mind control device that turns people against their own nature. With this repetition and this immorality. And then the more they teach us that it's okay to be immoral when it comes time to drink the blood or to hurt the child to get your promotion, then you won't have any qualms about it, and in the, in their courts and in their law and stuff, it's, if a Jew steals from a Gentile, that's okay, because that's the law, right? If, if a Jew has not normal sex with someone out of his marriage, as long as it's deviant sex, it's not within the law. So if you have missionary sex with a woman outside of marriage, that is, you did adultery and you're bad and whatever. But if you raped a child and, in the, I mean, I'm not going to describe it, but if you did like disgusting things, that's okay, because that God doesn't see that. That's not within the laws. So it's a structure of immorality that people are trained into with all of their consciousness. And then those people that their minds have been changed into this immoral thing, and they follow the orders of their hires and whatever. All of a sudden, those are the guys in the lab coats, or the priests that dictate to others down below what is the truth and how do you live, and you got to break the legs of those guys so that they're not hanging on Sunday,
Right.
like it's the way that it's a mind control device, right?
Yes, that's what religion is. That's what Jesus Christ nailed religion to the cross, and Satan and his minions in the Catholic Church and Jewish leadership put it right back for the sake of mind control. For the sake of mind control, I've said this so many times. I said this with you. The ultimate Christianity is a living relationship with Jesus Christ. It is the believer in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And if you have problems, if you have questions, you go to the Bible as your rule book. There are no human beings, no men, no women, no pilgrimages, no structures, no pastors in between you
no
and
hierarchy,
Christ.
Right?
No zero. Illuminati zero. Illuminati zero. Okay, zero. None. How many people did Charlie Manson kill? By the way, Charlie Manson was sent by a secular United States government judge to go to Boys Town, and he ran away after 2 weeks because he was terrified of what they were doing there. What a coincidence. Okay.
Yeah.
No authority of men or women in between you and Christ. The ultimate Christian is a completely decentralized believer with no religion, no man or woman weaponizing them and sending them in a direction. Go do this, go kill them, go, whatever the case is. That's the true Christianity, and no one really follows that.
Well, that's actually, I mean, if you look at the mysteries or whatever, to know thyself and to go inward and to have that personal journey into your own morality and your own care, and that's where you will find the truth of Jesus, right? Of the love and compassion for others, and to not harm others, and to recognize the golden rule of
Jesus Christ, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your spirit, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the 10 Commandments. That's Mosaic law in a nutshell. And Jesus gave it to you. It's not following these memorized systems.
Right. And I mean, it has the name of Jesus. It has these words written in, in books. Other people have thought of them. But if we, without all the noise, if we go in with ourselves, only recognizing I love myself, I love my family, I love my children. Everybody is family. Everybody is children. Everybody is another self. I love everybody. Doing harm to others is wrong. You would achieve this on your own without so this is the true state of care and morality that humans are built with, right? And it's just codified with this man who came to Earth to it's.
I do disagree
Sure,
that you can
please.
be your own Jesus. I do disagree.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that
there are others who do. I know you're not. There are others who do. There are others. Okay. There's a Gnostic guru in the health community named Marty Leeds. He's promoting the idea. It's an ancient Gnostic Freemasonic idea that you can be your own Jesus. Jesus never existed. You can be your own Jesus. You have to do exactly what you're doing. You have to find your own place of nirvana where you can, who was it? The ultimate New Age guru, a Jesuit named Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who submitted the idea of the Omega point. Don't worry, we're all gonna ascend to the Omega point if we find our own selves. Okay, we're going to lift up our own selves. So for the Christian, the Orthodox Christian take on this, you're not going to be able to do that with Jesus Christ, because you're always going to have a selfish motive. You're never going to be able to get shed of your motives. You have to, and this is the only reason why,
because the ego would be in the way if we're going into ourselves.
Brilliant, okay. Because the ego gets in the way. You will always have an ulterior motive. Even if you have the integrity to be aware of it and fight it, you're still going to have lost battles. So you have to look to something bigger than you to help you get past that. And that's another reason why we don't go to church, but it's important to have fellowship, friends, and family that you can make yourself accountable to, so that you're not the authority of yourself.
Whereas, clean, let your works be seen. Right.
Amen. Right. Brilliant. That's also so that everything is on the table. Don't be disingenuous. Don't lie. Everything is on the table. And this way, there's nothing to hide. This way, you don't have to worry about what you said or didn't say yesterday. It's boom. It's all on the table.
And the example that Jesus lived without sin and achieved total morality. I mean, care for others beyond. So it's giving the example of that care for others, so that it gives a way for the ego to recognize the ego as secondary.
That's right. That's the exact same formula. That is the exact, not to cut you off, not simple. That's the exact same formula to understand that the fully God limited himself into becoming a finite man, and took on all of the sin of mankind to be the ultimate, as John the Baptist said, the Lamb of God takes away the sin of the world. The only way he was qualified to do that is to have never sinned himself. And it's a complete juxtaposition of human sin. We are flawed and failed and can never be perfect. He is perfect and didn't sin. And he clothes us with his righteousness. And as a result, we can never brag. Christians can never be full of ourselves. Christians can never claim, and there are religions that claim this. There are Christian sects that claim you can live a sinless life. No, you can't. This is why a sincere Christian will always be humble, will always listen first, not like Johnny, will always listen first before shooting off at the mouth, and say, there, but for the grace of God, go I. So that's the important.
You might be blinded by your ego in some way and not notice. You might have some cognitive dissonance still remaining that you haven't cleaned away. Yes. Right.
Yes, and make a fool out of yourself because of your ego, because of your pride, because you're not. And so here's the balance. Here's a great example. I bring up the issue of homosexuality all the time. Here's the example. Here's the reason. We have provocateurs who pretend to be a guy like Steven Anderson, and nobody's got a church of like 20 zombies, okay? And yet he's super big. He's been on the Alex Jones show. He's been interviewed by mainstream media. He's supposedly a Baptist preacher. I personally believe that he is an incognito ordained homosexual Jesuit, because his antics just breathe that exact thing of lampooning what it means to be a Christian. And he's pounding on the pulpit, no homos will ever be allowed in this church ever. And so people are playing that. This is the example of what it means to be a Baptist pastor. No, this is someone lampooning religion, a Jesuit lampooning religion, when what you're supposed to be saying is, first of all, the vast majority, not the vast, but a very large number of homosexuals turned to homosexuality out of childhood trauma because they were raped as a child. No one's talking about that. This is the origin, the genesis of this fraud of nature versus nurture. Well, you're born gay. No, you're not born gay. You're turned into that because some animal has raped you as a child, and they totally disconnect you. Cognitive, what is it? Of the multiple personality disorder.
Dissociative identity disorder.
Absolutely. Right. Dissociative personality disorder. And that's part of what you're going through. Okay. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is to have compassion, as opposed to these Westboro Baptist Church. What a bunch of Jesuits and frauds. Are you kidding me? Holding up signs, having kids. And again, it's a church of like 12
people. They go to the funerals.
Nationwide. Going to soldier funeral. Thank God for soldier funerals because of homos. Are you kidding me? And you represent. Oh, what
so
a bunch
ridiculous.
Of Jesuits. What a bunch of Jesuits. Okay. So, meanwhile, there's a balance. The rule book says that sex between the same gender is not allowed. That's what the rule book says. I didn't write the rule book. Can you satisfy yourself between this two of the same gender? Yes, you can, or else it wouldn't be done. Okay, I'm just saying that's what the rule book is. I have humility about that, but on the other side, I'm not going to take that and do what Gay Pride is today. Do, what is it? Transgender Storybook Hour. Okay, where you have someone who is really, really tragically flawed read stories to children with their full get up and makeup and whatnot. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, they're getting demonic now. They're looking like evil.
The typical Gay Pride parade. So that's taking the tragedy of homosexuality and just grinding your face in it. Okay, that's the other side of the balance. It's the same thing that we find with the Jews. I have a GIF that I created with a pendulum. Love the Jews, hate the Jews, love the Jews, hate the Jews, love the Jews, hate the Jews.
Right.
No balance. Okay. Same thing with transgenders today. They're easy targets. No one's looking at the tragedy of what made them what they are. Utter tragedy. Right. Usually it's abuse.
Actually, on my show, we spoke with John Euler about this, and people should go back and check it out. We did an episode describing how the what used to be filed as signs of abuse, like teachers and people that worked with children and stuff, were trained. If they ever see these things, this is signs of abuse. But now they're being recodified as a sign of this person's transgender. Right. So now they got like little girls that are cutting their arms, and they they want to be a different sex because they don't want to be raped anymore. Because their rapist wouldn't rape a boy, right? It's so simple, and it makes so much sense. And then it also goes along with the homophobia stuff. Oh, you can just be a girl instead of being a homo, and we hate homos, and be a girl. And that goes back to the same Inanna Ishtar. The Gali of Ishtar or Inanna would cut off their junk and dress as women and be whores for the cult, and the eunuchs of the old, it all goes back to this genital mutilation. We talked about circumcision also. It's a direct mind control where they're I mean, with the eunuchs, they don't have, their minds aren't no longer get testosterone. Well,
big difference between cutting your testicles off and cutting your foreskin off. Big difference.
Well, that's true, but I mean, cutting your foreskin off, it's removing the sexual pleasure mainly. It's 60,000 Meisner corpuscles. I mean, it's seriously just taking away your ability to feel that. And so it also, the removal of the testicles is taking away your ability to think with testosterone. You know what I mean? So it's it changes your will, it changes yourself, and at your core being. So this genital mutilation, it's the same. They're just bringing it on again. It's the most mind control. If they can convince, I mean, in the old days, it was if they can convince a mom to give her baby, to go against her will to be a mom, protect the baby, she can give it over to the priest, and that's true mind control. But if now they're making the babies choose for themselves, I'm going to chop myself.
my partners for me on the show yesterday made this exact same point, and I allowed them to. I said, you know what, you're right. I allowed for them to correct me. I said, you're absolutely right. What was the trauma of child rape of decades ago is now the culture of today.
Right, it's routine.
You look at the kids today, and those kids who are all messed up are many of them have not been traumatized and raped. They've simply been convinced by the ubiquitous culture, starting in school and going to movies and music all around them and video games, encouraging them. I can't tell you something as simple as playing a video game. And many of the gamers are males, and yet a game that comes out and you are required to be a voluptuous female in the game. The Tomb Raider. Okay, you're a voluptuous female. Okay, that's not
right.
And they don't, Sean. They don't even think, and they jump right into the game.
Dude, I
they
know.
Don't even think, and they don't, and they jump right into the game.
I went into my friend's house. My friend was his name's Ducky, and he used to play video games a lot. I walked into his house, and he's playing this Final Fantasy 10 or whatever. And it's at this moment where he's meant to, like, there's this huge chicken that he's going to ride like a horse, and he has to touch its neck, and it like straightens its neck up real like an erect chicken. You know what I'm saying? And then he rides it to this new land, and I'm like, dude, this game is making you ride a cock and to get it erect first before you ride on it. He's like, oh my God, he didn't even realize that.
Right. Oh my goodness, yes. Oh my, you don't even realize.
Sure.
And who's at the bottom of it is the military industrial complex created video games to turn soldiers into sociopaths, to disconnect them. This is the genesis of all the zombie games and the zombie movies, so that the Praetorians, the cops and the soldiers will disassociate real human beings that have legitimate grievances and simply see zombie terrorists and mow them all down. World War Z. Okay.
Take their babies and bash them on the rocks.
Yes. They're not real humans. They're not real humans. Mow them down. Kill them all. Let God sort them out, just as the Jesuits preach. The ends justify the means, exactly as the Jesuits preach.
Man, well, we've gotten to 2 hours here, and I would love to continue.
Flew by.
If there's
we'll
more
do it
notes,
again. We covered about 4% of what I wanted to do today.
Well, if you want, I would gladly do a round 2, maybe in a couple weeks, if you have time.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So that's
and we'll expand a little bit. Let me send me little bullet points that we'll continue to and I'll again. Okay. Like I had notes in the background, and I was going to get into the children of Israel selected Jacob. What is Jacob? Jacob is a supplanter. Jacob is a heel catch, he's a conniver. So the reason why the Israelites were picked is because God picked the most disgusting human beings anywhere on the planet to give his grace to have the Messiah come from, as a proof of how much is his grace and his love.
Oh, and like the Good Samaritan, right? Like to prove how like the Samaritans were the bad ones, but
evil.
There was one good one.
It was the Samaritan that had the real compassion.
Right.
How many times the crazy people that are in Jesus's family tree to fulfill the prophecies, to include, how many times did Satan try to intervene and pollute the bloodline so that would abrogate Jesus's fulfillment of the prophecies? Repeatedly, twice, Abraham gave up his beautiful wife Sarah to the beds of other men, only for Yahweh to directly intervene in dreams and say, "Don't touch that woman." Isaac did it once, and then we have. There is in Jesus' family tree a harlot, Rahab, the prostitute, and was she at Jericho? She was in one of the conquests where she was loyal to the Israeli spies, and she's in Jesus' bloodline. We have a Moabitess, Ruth the Moabitess, is also in the bloodline of Jesus, and Moabites who is Moab and Ammon were the incestuous children of Lot. Okay, wait a minute. Why would you put that in there? Why would you put them in Jesus' family tree? To show the grace of God. David's worst sin was to take, he's got any woman he could want, he's the king of Israel, and he looks at a beautiful woman that belongs to somebody else, one of his loyal warriors, and he has that warrior's life wasted and murdered to steal that man's wife. And the prophet Nathan comes and says, there's a rich man that rode into town, and he had herds of sheep, and he took one lamb from this poor family who was a pet. They loved him. They kept the lamb in the house with them, and he ripped it from them and slaughtered it so that he can just have a party. And David said, that man must die. And Nathan said, that's you. And David fell on his face and wept and said, I am guilty. Please forgive me. And he said, you will live because you have lowered and humbled yourself and you acknowledge your sin. But the child you had with this woman, Bathsheba, the child will die. And that's what happened. And the next child they had was Solomon, and he's in Jesus' lineage.
Right.
Why would they do that? Why would Yahweh do that? To show the grace of God, Take those who merited this the least and lift them up to put them in Jesus' lineage. So,
and Solomon had all the benefits and still ate the crickets or whatever, you know what I mean? Still went along with one of his wives.
And turned. And so
Right.
to this day, there's a scholarly argument as to whether or not Solomon is even saved, whether or not we'll go and see and whether he's going to be there because his heart turned away.
It makes sense that like his lineage gets another crack at it to do right.
Yes, by grace. By grace. That's the message of Christianity, grace. And so there's no questioning whether or not it's the Jewish leadership. Like I said, remember, it was the Jews who loved, the rank and file Jews who loved Jesus of Nazareth, that forced the Jewish leadership to arrest him illegally at night because they knew they would be lynched if they did it in broad daylight. And that's what Jesus said, that, oh, you come to me at night and kiss me on the cheek, right? Are you kidding me? It's exactly what Jesus said. So there are portions where you've got this image of the Jews cry out to Pontius Pilate, his blood be on us and our children. Whoa, don't do that. Don't curse yourself. Are you kidding me? But this is done by the Jewish leadership. This is done by the Jewish leadership. And who takes his place? Spiritual Israel. There is no literal Israel today. There is no literal, no one can really trace themselves, especially since the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. No one can trace themselves and no one can be the Messiah. It's done. It's done. It's a done deal. There's no such thing as real Jews. That's why there's such legitimacy. The Khazars from the Genoese colony, they're supplanted and suddenly magically they become modern Israel. Okay. Right. There is the Christians who believe in a modern Israel, don't know their own Bibles. Okay. And we can hit this again on the next time.
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you. And please, one more time, tell everybody they can
JohnnyCirucci.com. Go to JohnnyCirucci, JohnnyCirucci.com. I've got either Johnny Cirucci or Resistance Rising, my hubs. I'm not allowed on YouTube. That's my goal. If the FBI ever come here, I want to be like, what was the Thomas Cruise map of their number for the Orsini movie where they arrest him and they bind. I think this might have been a Mission Impossible where they put a gag or put him in a straitjacket and a gag. I want to be that guy. Don't let him talk. He'll cast a spell on you. Don't let him talk. I want to be that guy when they come. So I'm not allowed on YouTube, but I do have an Odyssey, a Rumble, a BitChute, an UgTube, and a Brighteon. Either Resistance Rising or Johnny Cirucci. You can find me there. You find me at JohnnyCirucci.com, where you go to the about, as my good Canadian friends say, and my hubs are all there. You can find my 5 books, Illuminati Mass, Secret History, Eaters of Children, Romans of Mass Destruction, and Disciples of Ra on the Scamdemic. Find them still on Amazon, Leviathan, CI Amazon. Fortunately, because so shadow banned that they're still going to allow that. And as soon as I get any bigger, I'm sure they'll yank them the heck off of Leviathan. But in the meantime, that's where you can find my books and find my stuff. So love you, Pop. Appreciate you allowing me to do that.
Well, I love you, brother, and I'm so glad that you could join us today. And it's always.
I want you on my show. We got to talk. We got to talk Anarchy and Solutions on my show. I want you to come on my show and talk Anarchy and Solutions.
That's great.
Because I'm going over the Jesuit and Freemasonic ties to the OK Corral, and I just realized today one of the big reasons why we see that again and again and again is the guys like Earp and Masterson were dealing with lawlessness by confiscating guns before the guys would come into the town. As a matter of fact, when I mentioned this on my show, Ed Masterson, the sheriff, and I forget where the sheriff of the brother of Bat Masterson, was killed trying to take guns from some visitors. So pre-crime in 1880. Okay, how do we go? What do we do today so that we don't have those? To them, it was common sense. Yeah, give up your guns. No, well, wait a minute. That's pre-crime. You don't give up your guns. You got to arrest the guy after the crime. You don't tell him he's got to surrender his guns. Another reason why we see this OK Corral over and over and over and over again. There's also a Freemasonic tie.
They show the slaughter of how bloody it was, and
right. And of course, the domestication of cattle for slaughter was from a Jesuit, Eusebio Kino, as was the cowboy genre of movies. Eusebio Kino. The Germans today, they go to Kino. They don't go to movies, they go to Kino. So yeah, I want to bring you on my show and
I would love to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Well, I will be speaking with you in the email to set up this part 2, and we will set that one up as well. So listeners can look forward to that. And I'm delighted with today's conversation. You said many things that that I truly believe, and they came out of your mouth. And I'm like so glad that we share the same voice, and we can do that together. Yes. Likewise.
I want to mirror this. Send me this link when you have it. Okay, I want to mirror this.
I will. I will send you the file, and
perfect.
And I will be speaking with you.
I'll put it in. I'll point people back to your original.
Awesome.
All right, brother. Love you, man.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, and thank you, listeners. We will see you next time on Wake the Dead.